Please, Mr. Blake, don't go upstairs. I'm begging you, sir, don't do this to yourself. The desperate plea cut through the crisp Boston morning like a knife. Ethan Blake stood frozen on the stone porch of his estate, suitcase by his polished shoes, a bouquet of white lilies trembling slightly in his hand. He had imagined this moment differently: quiet, surprise, warm embrace, the soft laughter of his wife welcoming him home early from San Francisco. Not this. And there, framed in the doorway like a desperate sentinel, stood Maya William, his maid of 3 years, her eyes wet, voice trembling. Maya William stood in the doorway, barefoot, trembling. There was fear in her eyes, not nervousness, not anxiety, fear, raw and shaking. Her breath came sharp and uneven, like she had run across the entire property to intercept him. "Maya?" he said, stunned. "What on earth?" "Please," she cut in, voice cracking. "Don't go in. Not right now. Just give me a minute, sir. Just 1 minute." Ethan blinked. The lilies rustled as he shifted his weight. "I just flew in from San Francisco," he said, tone still calm but now firm. "It's 6:30 in the morning. Why are you answering the door like this? Where's Lila?" Maya flinched at the name. "She's upstairs," she whispered. "Sleepin', I think. But please, Mr. Blake, I swear. You don't want to go up there right now." His brows furrowed. This didn't make sense. Maya was the quiet kind, never spoke unless spoken to. She followed house rules to a T, never meddled, never raised her voice, the kind of woman who'd rather quit than confront. "Is there a gas leak? An emergency? A burglar?" he asked, half joking to mask his unease. Maya shook her head, biting her lower lip. Her fingers trembled against the edge of the door. "No, sir, nothing like that. It's just—" She looked away. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. "It's what you might see that'll break something inside you." Ethan took a half step back. "What did you say?" Her eyes met his. Dark brown, clouded with fear, guilt, something else he couldn't name. And it stopped him cold. "Move aside, Maya," he said, this time sharper. She didn't. Her whole body trembled. But she stayed rooted to the spot, blocking the man who paid her salary, who once gave her brother a scholarship, who'd trusted her to care for his home. "I'm trying to protect you, sir," she said. "That's all." "Protect me from what?" Silence. He stepped forward again, gently but firmly placed a hand on her shoulder. "I appreciate your concern, Maya. I really do. But this is my house. My wife is inside. And I intend to see her." "No," she blurted, and her hands shot out, palms against his chest. "Please, sir, I beg you." Her breath hitched. The next second, before he could react, she dropped to her knees, arms wrapped around his leg in a grip born of panic and heartbreak. "Please, Mr. Blake," she sobbed, clinging to him. "I'm on my knees in your doorway. Don't go up those stairs. I ain't trying to disrespect you. I ain't losing my mind. I'm trying to save you." Ethan's pulse spiked. The sight of her kneeling, trembling, sobbing, clutching at him like he was all that stood between her and catastrophe unsettled him to his core. He wasn't prepared for this. He had walked in expecting home, peace, love. But this was alarm. This was dread. This was the smell before a storm. "Maya," he whispered, "get up, please. I don't want you on the ground." She wouldn't move. "If I let you walk in there, I'll never forgive myself. Please. I seen enough heartbreak in my life, sir. Don't make me watch another one happen when I could have stopped it." Emotion flared in Ethan's chest, confusion, fear, impatience, all clashing at once. He tugged his leg gently, trying to lift her without force. But Maya only held tighter, knuckles white, tears soaking the hem of his trousers. His voice broke. "Let go. Not unless you promise." "Maya." He tried again, firmer now, shaking his leg free. His heel jerked. Her fingers slipped. And then she fell. Her elbow scraped the stone porch, skin splitting. A thin line of blood appeared. She gasped softly, pain flashing across her face. Ethan froze. The lilies trembled in his hand. Horror washed over him. "Maya," his voice shook. I wasn't. Are you hurt?" She sat up slowly, wiping tears with the back of her sleeve, smearing blood faintly across her wrist without noticing. "It's okay," she whispered shakily. "Hurt ain't new to me. but it don't compare to what's waiting for you up there. He stared at her, at the blood, at the tears, at the devotion in her pleading eyes, and something in him buckled. What are you trying to tell me? He demanded, voice trembling now, not angry but afraid. Maya's gaze dropped. Her voice cracked open like a wound. I can't say it. If I do, she'll ruin me. Lila? Ethan whispered. Her silence was louder than a scream. Maya's hands shook as she tried to stand, steadying herself on the doorframe. Mr. Blake, she breathed, voice tiny now, beaten. You walk up them stairs right now. You won't ever be the same man coming back down. He didn't speak. Didn't blink. Something inside him began to crumble. Gut instinct turning to dread. Like freezing water filling his veins. He stepped past her not with anger, but with the stiff, mechanical movements of a man about to face a truth his soul already knew. The house was too quiet. The vanilla-scented candles still burned faint from last night. His wedding photo smiled down at him from the wall, the one where he and Lila twirled under fairy lights in a vineyard in Napa. Believing forever was easy. He walked the hallway. Maya followed several paces behind, one hand pressed to her bleeding elbow, tears falling silently now. Her breath barely made a sound. Ethan stopped at the foot of the stairs. You still don't want me to go up? Her answer came soft, broken, full of dread. No, sir. I ain't ever wanted something less. He climbed. The lilies slipped from his fingers as he reached the bedroom door. He pushed it open, and the world fell apart. His wife was there, tangled with another man, the man who had stood beside him at his wedding. His breath left him in one brutal blow. Lila. But his voice vanished. His vision blurred. A crushing weight seized his chest. And then, everything went dark. Behind him, Maya screamed. Maya's scream shattered the stillness of the morning. It wasn't just a sound, it was the kind of raw, aching cry that comes from witnessing a life splitting open. She stumbled into the room, breath ragged, hand trembling over her bleeding elbow as she dropped to her knees beside Ethan's fallen body. Sir Mr. Blake, oh Lord, please. Her voice shook as she lifted his shoulders, her palms trembling against his suit jacket. Please open your eyes. Please don't leave like this. The other man, shirt half on, still fumbling, pale with guilt, backed against the wall. His voice cracked like cheap glass. He fainted? You hush, Maya snapped through tears, her voice suddenly fierce. You don't speak a word, not after what you did in this house. He stammered again, but she didn't look at him. Her world was narrowed to the man in her arms, Ethan, limp, his face draining of color. She could feel the shallow rise and fall of his chest, faint, unsteady, fragile, like a candle in a storm. Mr. Blake, please, she whispered, pressing her cheek to his chest for just a second, making sure. Jesus, don't take him like this. Down the hall, a bedroom door creaked. Lila appeared, wrapped in a sheet, hair a tangle of luxury falling over her bare shoulders. Her expression was not shock, it was calculation wearing a thin coat of panic. Maya, what? Her voice halted as she saw Ethan on the floor. Oh my God. Maya's head snapped up, eyes burning. You stay right there, ma'am. That single word, ma'am, landed heavy. No respect in it, just truth. Lila took a trembling step forward. Ethan, baby, don't you touch him, Maya hissed, clutching his hand like a lifeline. You done enough. For a moment the world seemed to hum with silence. The morning light streamed in, soft and golden, painting a scene so heartbreakingly still it might have been a painting of betrayal frozen in time. A perfect home, a broken man, and the two women kneeling in the wake of his collapse, one guilty, one pleading to God. Maya pulled her phone with shaking fingers and dialed with the speed of someone who had done this before, who had learned emergency numbers before she learned how to sign her own name in cursive. 911, she gasped. It's my employer, he collapsed. Please send paramedics. Fast, he ain't breathing right. Her voice cracked, but she held firm. She pressed one hand against Ethan's chest like she could keep his heart beating through sheer will. When she hung up, she leaned close, whispering, Sir, don't you go. You hear me? I'm right here. You ain't alone. I won't let this house swallow you. The man who had been hiding in shame finally moved. I should go. Maya didn't lift her eyes. You run if you want, but God sees. He fled, stumbling barefoot down the stairs. Lila reached to touch Ethan's face. Maya blocked her hand mid-air without even looking. "You ain't got the right." Lila's voice trembled now, breaking. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I swear." "You swear?" Maya's laugh was a harsh, broken whisper. "I swear you meant every minute." Downstairs, the front door opened. The driver, alarmed by Maya's earlier frantic call, rushed in. "Mr. Blake?" "No." Maya looked up, tears streaking her face. "Help me get him up. We ain't waitin'. He need a doctor now." Together, they lifted Ethan carefully, and Maya guided every motion like she was holding the world's last fragile thing. Lila hovered behind like a ghost, afraid of the Sunday. As they carried him out, Maya glanced once at the stairs, those same stairs she'd tried so hard to block. If she had thrown herself at the door harder, screamed louder, broken every rule she'd lived by, would it have stopped this? The crisp autumn air slapped her skin as they reached the driveway. The leaves rustled overhead. The world outside had the audacity to keep turning. In the back seat of the sleek black SUV, Maya sat with Ethan cradled against her shoulder, hands pressed to his chest to feel every faint rise and fall. She whispered prayers between sobs, not fancy ones, just the kind she'd heard her mama whisper over tired bones and hungry nights. "Don't leave, sir. Don't you let heartbreak take you. You got too much left to build." Lila leaned forward, but Maya blocked her again. Every instinct born of loyalty, pain, and righteous fury. "You sit back, ma'am. The only thing breaking here should be your conscience." The car sped off. The street blurred. Maya didn't blink. If she did, she was afraid she'd miss a breath. When they reached the hospital, nurses rushed forward. Ethan was pulled away on a stretcher, pale as winter light. Maya's hand slipped from his only when the nurses physically separated them. "Family only," one nurse said kindly. Maya's voice trembled. "Ain't no one in this world care for that man more'n me right now." But she stepped back, because rules were rules, and she had lived a lifetime obeying them. Still, she didn't leave. She planted herself in a plastic chair in the waiting area, bloody elbow resting against her hoodie, hands gripping the hem so tight her knuckles whitened. Leela sat far away, silent, shaking. Maya stared at the floor and whispered into her palms, "Lord, don't let this be the end of him. Good men don't fall easy. Don't let heartbreak strike him down when he ain't done yet." Minutes passed like hours until finally, a nurse stepped out. "He's breathing. Stable for now." "Oh." Maya's breath collapsed in relief. Lila let out a strangled sob. Maya didn't look at her. She clasped her hands together and lowered her head, whispering, "Thank you." Because though her heart was bruised and her elbow burned, there was breath in Ethan Blake's chest. And where there was breath, there was still time for justice. If this story moved you, hit that like button and tell us where you're watching from. Someone nearby might be watching with you. The room was silent except for the steady, mechanical beeping of the heart monitor. Soft blue light filtered through the blinds of the private hospital suite, casting long shadows on the sterile white walls. Ethan Blake lay still, a tangle of tubes and wires extending from his wrist and chest. His face was pale, drawn tight with the kind of pain that runs deeper than the body can explain. Maya stood just outside the room, forehead pressed against the cool glass of the observation window. Her hoodie sleeves were crusted with dried blood from her elbow, but she hadn't noticed. Her eyes hadn't left Ethan since the nurses wheeled him in. A nurse passed by and offered her a sympathetic smile. "He's stable," the woman said gently. "You should sit. Clean that arm." Maya nodded vaguely but didn't move. Her heart still raced, not from fear now, but guilt, deep, slicing guilt. Like maybe if she had screamed louder or locked the door or thrown herself down the stairs, anything to keep him from seeing what he saw, maybe none of this would have happened. Behind her, soft footsteps echoed in the corridor. "Maya." She turned slowly. Lila stood there, makeup smeared, lips pale, arms crossed tightly over the expensive beige trench coat she hadn't had time to button. "He's alive?" she asked. Maya didn't answer at first. Her gaze held steady, her jaw locked. Then she nodded once, slow. Lila sighed in visible relief and reached for the doorknob. Maya stepped in front of it. "I wouldn't," she said softly. "I'm his wife." Maya's tone didn't change. "Then act like it." Lila bristled. "You don't get to talk to me that way." Maya leaned closer. You don't get to look at him like you care after what you did in that bed. There it was, plain and unvarnished. Lila's mouth twitched. It was a mistake. Yeah, Maya said, her voice iron now. One that nearly killed him. A long pause passed between them. Maya didn't move. Neither did Lila. After a moment, Lila's shoulders dropped slightly. Just let me see him. He's not asking for you, Maya replied. And with that, she turned and walked past her, back into the room, leaving Lila standing frozen in the hallway. Inside, Ethan stirred faintly, his fingers twitching beneath the white hospital blanket. Maya approached slowly, heart in her throat. She had never seen him like this. Not even when his father died 2 years ago had his face looked this broken, this lost. She pulled the chair closer to the bed and sat down carefully, folding her hands in her lap. Then softly, "It's me, sir. Maya. You're safe now." No response. But she kept talking. "Doctor says your pressure dropped from shock. They were worried it was your heart. But it ain't that kind of heart damage they can fix with wires and tubes. Is it?" She looked down, thumb tracing circles into her palm. "I'm sorry, sir. I'm real sorry I couldn't stop you in time." The monitor beeped steadily, indifferent. "You know, when I was 16, my uncle collapsed from heartbreak. Real talk. My aunt left him, took the house, the kids. The truck left nothing but a note. They said it was stress, high blood pressure. But I saw it happen. His soul broke before his body gave out." She looked up again, eyes shining. "I wasn't about to let that happen to you." There was a long silence. Then Ethan's lips parted, dry and cracked. "Maya?" She gasped quietly, shooting to her feet. "Yes, sir. I'm here." He blinked slowly, eyes heavy with exhaustion and confusion. How long?" "Couple hours since we got here. Maybe less." "You passed out." She smiled faintly, though her lips trembled. "Scared me half to death, sir." He tried to sit up. She pressed his shoulder gently. "Doctor said rest. Just lay still." He looked around, eyes dull but searching. "Lila, she came." Maya answered honestly. "I didn't let her in." He closed his eyes, exhaling a long, shaky breath. For a moment, his chest stilled too long, and Maya held hers. Then he spoke again. "You saw it?" She nodded. "I did, for a while now." He swallowed hard, tears forming behind his lashes. "Why didn't you tell me?" Her voice cracked. "I wanted to. Lord knows I wrote the words 100 times. But I was scared. She threatened me, said she'd fire me, make sure no one else ever hired me again. Said she'd call immigration on my cousin. Said she'd ruin my life. I wouldn't have let that happen," he said. "I know," she whispered, tears finally falling. "But I didn't want to make it worse. You were always good to me. Paid my brother's tuition. Gave me time off when my mama passed. Treated me like a person. I just couldn't be the reason your heart broke." Ethan's jaw tensed, his hands clenched around the sheet. "You weren't," he said. "She was." He turned his head slightly, eyes locked on the ceiling like it held answers he'd been too blind to see. "All those nights away, I thought I was building something for us." "You were," Maya said gently. "She just didn't want what you built." Silence stretched again, heavy as snowfall. Then, almost too soft to hear, Ethan asked, "Am I a fool, Maya?" She shook her head. "No, sir. You loved someone. That ain't ever foolish. That's human." "Do?" He blinked slowly, a tear slipping from the corner of his eye. Maya reached for a tissue and dabbed it away. Careful, tender. "Try to rest," she whispered. "You ain't alone, okay? Not now." He gave a barely there nod, and his eyelids fluttered shut once more. Maya sat back down, watching him breathe. She would stay, as long as it took. The hospital hallway hummed with quiet urgency. Nurses moved briskly, machines beeped softly, and the world outside was just starting to warm with the hazy glow of sunrise. But inside Ethan Blake's private room, time felt suspended, held together by the faint rhythm of a heartbeat monitor and the soft sound of Maya's whispered prayers. Maya sat in the chair beside him, back straight, hands clasped so tightly they shook. Exhaustion stained her voice when she finally spoke again, almost to herself. "Lord, If you ever listened to me before, listen now. Keep this man breathing. Don't let hurt be the thing that ends him. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry again. She'd shed enough tears to salt the floors of this hospital. She needed strength now, not grief. A small clock on the wall ticked above her head. 7:14 a.m. Shift change soon. New faces, new questions. She wiped her cheeks, straightened her hoodie, and stood just as the door opened, and the doctor stepped inside. A middle-aged man with kind eyes and a clipboard tucked under his arm. "Maya, right?" he asked, recognizing her from earlier. "Yes, sir." "He's stabilizing. The tests show emotional shock triggered his collapse. His blood pressure dipped dangerously low, but he's responding to fluids and rest." Maya nodded, relief softening her shoulders. "He needs rest," the doctor continued. "No stress, no emotional confrontations." Maya's jaw tightened. She knew exactly who he meant by that. Before she could respond, footsteps echoed down the hall. Sharp, quick, trembling. Lila. She appeared in the doorway, hair neatly combed now, face powdered, lipstick soft pink. She had fixed her appearance, but her eyes were swollen and desperate. "Doctor, can I see my husband?" she asked, voice pitched painfully polite. Maya didn't turn, didn't blink, simply stood at Ethan's side like a guard carved from stone. The doctor glanced between them, sensing the tension. "He needs calm," he said carefully. "No distressing interactions." "I'm his wife," Lila insisted, jaw quivering. "He needs me." Maya slowly pivoted, her gaze cool and steady. Pain still sat behind her eyes, but strength had risen to meet it. "He needs peace," Maya replied. "Ain't the same thing." Lila's lips parted in offense. "You don't get to decide that." "I ain't decided nothin'," Maya said softly. "He did, the moment his heart fell at your feet." The silence that followed was thick, trembling with things better left unsaid. Lila stepped into the room anyway, chin high, but the moment her eyes landed on Ethan's still, pale face, her facade cracked. She pressed a hand over her mouth, shoulders hunching. "Oh God, Ethan." Maya moved slightly, blocking her path without touching her. "Back up, ma'am." Lila's voice rose, thin and brittle. "I love him." Maya's brows slowly lifted. "Love don't do what you did." Lila flinched. "He made a mistake." "No, ma'am," Maya said, voice low, sad, but firm like a church hymn sung in mourning. "Mistake is burnin' breakfast. Mistake is losing your keys. You made a choice." The words lingered, heavy as judgment. The doctor cleared his throat gently. "Mrs. Blake, I recommend you give him space." Lila's eyes brimmed again. I didn't think it would. I didn't think he'd break," Maya offered quietly. "People break, ma'am. Even strong ones." Lila stared at her, stunned not by the words, but by the truth in them. A nurse stepped forward and touched Lila's elbow. "Ma'am, let's speak outside." Lila hesitated, looking at Ethan again, like she could will forgiveness into his stillness. Then she let herself be guided out, footsteps faint on polished tile. Maya exhaled slowly. She sat again, fingers brushing a wrinkle from Ethan's blanket, smoothing it like a mother tending a fevered child. Her wounded elbow ached, throbbing in rhythm with her pulse. But she didn't look at it. Didn't care. Pain on the outside was nothing compared to what lay inside that room. After a minute, his eyelids fluttered. Maya leaned forward. "Sir, you awake?" His voice came like cracked glass. "I heard, arguing." She softened. "Don't you worry about that. You just breathe." He swallowed, throat working painfully. "She was here." "Yes, sir, but she gone now." "No." He stared at the ceiling, eyes glistening not with tears this time, but something older, heavier. The grief of a man whose world had been built on trust, only to discover its foundation was sand. "She said she loved me," he whispered, almost to himself. Maya's breath shook. Sometimes folks use that word like it don't weigh nothin'. He turned to her, voice small. "And you think I should just accept this?" "No, sir," she said softly. "I think you should heal. Hurtin' ain't the same as acceptin'. Let your heart set its own time." He studied her face, the calm resilience, the quiet fire beneath kindness, the loyalty rooted deep like oak. "You tried to stop me," he murmured. "I did," she nodded. "Ain't in me to watch a good man walk into a storm blind." His eyes closed, His breathing steadied. After a moment he spoke again. Stay. There was no command in the word. It was a request, a whisper from someone stripped bare. Maya swallowed hard. Ain't going nowhere. Outside, a faint siren faded into the distance. Nurses exchanged shifts. The world moved on. Inside, Maya sat vigil, and the soft hum of machines wove a fragile cocoon around them. For the first time since dawn, Ethan slept without trembling. For the first time in her life, Maya felt the weight of fate settle around her shoulders not as burden, but as calling. She whispered, like a vow, "I won't let the world break you, sir. Not while I still got breath." And in the quiet of that hospital morning, it felt less like a promise, and more like the beginning of a battle. The sun climbed slowly above the Boston skyline, bathing the hospital in warm, golden light that felt cruel in its indifference. In the room where Ethan Blake lay resting, the air had taken on a different weight, thick, still, reverent. Grief lived here, but so did something else. Something slower, quieter. Maya hadn't moved in hours. She sat upright in the cushioned chair beside Ethan's bed, her hands resting on her lap, one still lightly bandaged where her elbow had split open on the porch. The nurses had offered to redress it. She'd refused. She would let it sting, let it remind her of what loyalty had cost her that morning. Ethan stirred. Maya leaned in immediately. "Sir?" His eyelids fluttered, brows pulling together. "Still here?" he rasped. She smiled softly. "Told you I would be." "My stot." He exhaled, eyes moving slowly around the room. "This isn't a dream, is it?" "No, sir," she said gently. "This here's the part after." Ethan blinked a few times, letting the words settle. Then he turned his gaze toward the window. "How long have I been asleep?" "Since just before sunrise. About 4 hours, give or take." He nodded faintly, the movement barely more than a twitch. "Doctor say if I'll be all right?" Maya hesitated, then answered truthfully. "He said your heart's strong, but shock like that don't leave easy." Ethan didn't respond right away. His face was calm now, but not peaceful. It was the stillness of someone who had walked through fire and hadn't yet counted his burns. She stood and picked up the pitcher of water from the bedside table, pouring him a glass. "You thirsty?" He nodded. She helped him sip slowly, her hand steady beneath his. When he finished, he leaned back into the pillows, exhausted by the small effort. "Thank you," he said softly. Maya sat again. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked after a pause. He stared at the ceiling. "No, but I need to." Maya gave a small nod. Ethan swallowed, his voice dry. "You were right. About everything." Maya didn't answer. "I should have seen it. The signs were there. The distance, the coldness, the way she smiled without reaching her eyes anymore." He closed his own eyes briefly, as if trying to remember the face he used to come home to. I thought if I kept building this company, if I kept making life easier, it would be enough." "It should have been," Maya said. His voice cracked. "It wasn't." He looked over at her then, really looked. "How long have you known?" Maya hesitated, then answered, "About a year." "First time." She said it was her cousin. I didn't believe it, but I didn't say nothing. Then it kept happening. Same man sometimes, different others, always when you were away. "No." Ethan's hands clenched slightly on the blanket. "She threatened you?" Maya nodded. "Said she'd fire me. Said she'd make sure I never worked again. I got family, sir. A brother in college. A cousin staying with me. I couldn't lose the job." He stared ahead, jaw tight. "I would have protected you." "I know," she whispered. "But back then, I thought protecting you meant keeping you from the truth." A beat of silence passed between them. "You tried to warn me." "I did," she said softly, "but I failed." Ethan turned his head. "No, you didn't fail. You were the only one who stood in my way, the only one who tried." She blinked rapidly, tears rising again. "I wish I could have done more." "You did more than anyone ever has," he said. His voice was raw now, quiet but sure. "You didn't just serve in my house. You watched over it, over me." Maya wiped a tear from her cheek and tried to smile. "Wasn't just a job to me, sir." "I know." He let the silence return. It was a comfortable silence this time, thick with shared understanding, the kind that settles between people who've walked through fire together. After a moment, Maya stood and adjusted the blanket over his legs. I should let you rest. But as she turned to leave, Ethan reached out. His fingers brushed her hand. Stay. She paused. I don't want to be alone right now, he said. Not with all that in my head. Maya looked down at his hand, then at his face. For a moment, the distance between boss and employee dissolved. What remained were two souls tethered by a moment neither of them could ever forget. She nodded slowly and sat back down. Would it be all right if I talk a little? She asked. About something else, just to pass the time. Ethan's eyes closed again. Please. So she did. She told him about her brother's first day in college, how nervous he was but how proud their mother would have been. She told him about her cousin from Mississippi who kept sending her photos of new church hats every Sunday like it was Fashion Week. She even told him about the sweet old lady who lived across the hall in her apartment building and baked too much cornbread every week, leaving some at Maya's door without fail. As she spoke, his breathing slowed. His brow relaxed. And Maya, for the first time that day, felt the heaviness in her chest loosen just enough to let her breathe. She didn't realize she had begun humming until the nurse walked by and smiled into the room. I used to sing that to my baby, Maya said softly, back before life got too loud. Ethan didn't answer. He was asleep, but his face, for the first time since the fall, looked peaceful. Maya sat back, eyes never leaving him, her voice a whisper. I'll be right here, sir. I'll stay until the end, or until you tell me to go. Mel. The sun was well over the Boston skyline when Maya stepped out of Ethan's room for the first time in almost 6 hours. Her legs were stiff, her body sore, but the ache in her chest had dulled to a manageable throb, something closer to fatigue than grief. She made her way down the corridor to the hospital cafe, ignoring the curious stares from nurses and visitors. The dried blood on her hoodie sleeve was now dark, nearly brown, and her hair had come loose from its wrap. She looked like someone who'd survived a storm, and she had. Inside the cafe, she ordered a cup of black coffee, not because she liked it, but because it was hot and cheap, and reminded her of the long shifts she used to work back in New Orleans before Boston, before the Blakes, before trust meant anything more than a paycheck. She sat near the window, eyes unfocused, watching the city breathe below. Buses wheezed, horns honked, people moved like nothing in the world had cracked open this morning. Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She didn't expect to hear the voice behind her. Maya? Her spine stiffened. She turned slowly. Lila, standing there, too put together for someone who had nearly destroyed a man just hours ago. Her cream coat was flawless, hair brushed and shining, sunglasses perched atop her head like she was auditioning grief rather than living it. I saw the nurse. She said you were here, Lila said, voice calm, almost gentle. Maya didn't respond. Lila sat across from her without being asked. He's awake? Maya nodded once. Restin'. Silence stretched between them like a tightrope. I know what you think of me, Lila said finally, voice low. I know what everyone must think. You care what people think? Maya replied, tone steady. Didn't seem like it when you let him fall. Lila winced. I didn't plan for this. I didn't mean to hurt him. No. Maya leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. You planned every lie you told. Every time you opened that door to a man who wasn't your husband. Every smile. Every whisper. You meant every one of those. Don't come here talking about what you didn't mean. Leela's voice faltered. You don't understand. I understand exactly, Maya said sharply. I understand you had a man who built a life for you, who worked himself raw trying to make you proud, and instead of standing beside him, you sold his love for moments that didn't mean nothing. You ain't here for him. You're here because you lost the last person who believed you were more than the lies you told. Lila's eyes welled with tears, but they didn't fall. I made a mistake. No, ma'am, Maya whispered, just as she had in Ethan's hospital room. You made a choice. Lila sat in stunned silence, her fingers fumbling with the strap of her designer purse. I want to talk to him, she said after a moment. Don't think he want that, Maya said. And even if he did, now ain't the time. Leela's expression hardened. He's my husband. Maya stood, coffee in hand. And he almost died because of you. She left before Lila could say another word. Back in the room, Ethan was sitting up slowly, a nurse adjusting his pillow behind him. "You're back," he said, voice still weak. Maya smiled. "Wasn't far." "No." "You all right?" "I'm not the one hooked up to a machine," she said lightly, then softened. "But yes, I'm all right." He looked at her, gaze full of something quiet and unreadable. "She was here, wasn't she?" Maya hesitated, then nodded, tried to talk. "I told her no." Ethan's jaw flexed. "Good. She said she wants to explain," Maya added. He turned his face toward the window, a long silence stretching between them. "You ever see something you believed in just vanish?" he asked. "Like 1 second it's real, and the next it's smoke." Maya nodded slowly. "Every child that's ever lost a parent knows that feeling. So do most folks who ever loved someone who didn't love them back." Ethan's voice grew tight. "It hurts. I know it does. I don't know how to hate her," he confessed. "I want to. I should. But I just feel empty." Maya stepped closer. "Hate don't heal nothin'. All it does is burn you twice." He looked at her, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly. "You got a lot of wisdom for someone under 30. She shrugged. "Life don't wait to teach, sir. It just throws you in." He chuckled softly, then winced as the motion pulled at something in his chest. Maya reached for the cup of water and helped him take a sip. "I don't know what happens next," he said after a while. "You don't have to," Maya replied. "You just gotta get through the next hour, then the next, then tomorrow." He leaned his head back against the pillows. "You ever lose someone who wasn't dead?" he asked. Maya didn't answer right away. Then she sat down beside him again and said, "My daddy walked out when I was 9. Left mama to raise 3 kids on her own. No note, no goodbye. Just gone. And for years I prayed he'd come back. Hated him for leaving, then hated myself for still hoping he might." She looked down at her hands. "But hope don't die easy. It just gets quieter." Ethan stared at her, eyes glassy. "How'd you let it go?" "I didn't," she said simply. "I just stopped letting it steer me." Outside the window, clouds had gathered. The golden light of earlier had turned gray. The kind of gray that tells you rain is coming. But not just yet. "I'm gonna have to go home soon," Ethan said. Maya's expression didn't change. "You don't have to rush. Ain't no law says a man's gotta go back to the place that broke him before he's ready." He gave a small smile. "Feels strange thinking of that house like that." "It ain't the walls, sir," she said gently. "It's what happened inside 'em." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I do go back, I'd like you there." Maya blinked. "Me?" "Yes. Not as help, not as staff. As someone I trust. Someone who'll tell me the truth even when it hurts." Her voice caught. "That what you want?" "I don't know what I want," he admitted. "But I know who I trust now. And it's a short list." She nodded, heart swelling with something she didn't dare name. "I'll be there," she said, "long as you need." As the machines hummed and the rain began to whisper against the glass, Ethan closed his eyes. Not in pain, but in something close to peace. The rain had come softly during the night, and by morning, it blanketed the city in a pale gray mist. Outside Ethan's hospital room window, droplets slid slowly down the glass, tracing quiet patterns like the thoughts that wandered across his mind. He had been awake since just after dawn, but he hadn't spoken. Not even when the nurse came in to check his vitals or when the orderly rolled in breakfast he didn't touch. Maya sat in the corner, legs crossed at the ankle, arms folded loosely. She said nothing either. The silence between them wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that grows between two people who have passed through fire together and no longer need to fill every space with sound. Finally, Ethan spoke. "Do you think people can come back from this?" Maya looked up. "You mean heartbreak?" He nodded, his eyes still on the window. "Yeah, the kind that doesn't just bruise it, unbuilds you." She took a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I think some folks carry pain like bricks, stacking it up, building walls round their heart. Others, they carry it like wind, let it pass through, even if it shakes the house." Ethan's eyes shifted to her. "And what do you carry?" Maya gave a soft laugh. "Me? I carry it like shoes. Heavy ones. Can't take 'em off, but I learned to walk anyway." A flicker of something close to a smile touched the corner of his mouth. "That's poetic." She shrugged. "Ain't poetry. It's survival." They sat for another moment before Ethan stirred again, his voice lower this time. She told me once she hated silence, said it made her feel lonely. Maya said nothing, but now I realize it wasn't silence she hated. It was herself in it. Maya unfolded her arms and leaned forward. People run from silence, 'cause it holds a mirror. And most folks don't want to look too close. He nodded slowly. I wonder, he said, if I ever really knew her, or if I just loved the idea of her so hard I filled in the blanks myself. Maya didn't answer right away. She let the question settle. I think love's like paint, she said softly. You put it on a person and hope it sticks. But if they keep washing themselves in lies, no color gonna hold. Ethan exhaled. It wasn't quite a sigh, more like release, a quiet letting go of something that had been lodged deep in his chest. A knock came at the door. A nurse poked her head in, smiling. Mr. Blake, your doctor will be in soon. But there's someone in the lobby asking to see you. A woman. Says she's your wife. Ethan's entire body tensed. Maya stood without hesitation. Tell her he's not seeing anyone today. The nurse glanced at Ethan. He nodded. That's right. The nurse nodded back and disappeared down the hall. Ethan's voice, when it came, was low. She's not going to stop. No, Maya said. Not till she thinks she can spin the story. He turned to look at her. You think that's what this is to her? Just a story? Maya met his gaze. For some people, truth's just whatever they can convince the world to believe. Ethan's jaw clenched. He looked away again, back to the window, where the mist now rolled down the glass like slow-moving ghosts. After a long pause, he said, I'm not ready to go home. You don't have to, Maya said gently. But I can't stay here forever. No, she agreed. But you can stay till your soul catches up to your body. He gave her a sidelong glance. You talk like a preacher. She smiled faintly. Nah. Just been raised by women who knew what hurt sounded like when it dressed itself in silence. He nodded slowly. You're good at this. At what? Being here. Saying the things that matter. I spent most my life watching people fall apart quietly, learned to speak soft but honest. He was quiet again, but there was a shift in his expression, less pain, more curiosity. He turned to her with something behind his eyes that wasn't pity or gratitude, but recognition. Who taught you to care like this? Maya took a deep breath. My mama. She was a nurse. Worked double shifts for 20 years in Baton Rouge. Always said, pain don't need a solution first. It just needs someone to stay. Ethan swallowed hard. She sounds like someone I would have liked, he murmured. She'd have liked you, Maya replied. You remind me of her. The way you carry weight like it belongs to you alone. He didn't answer. But he didn't need to. The rain continued tapping against the window, steady and soft. Maya stood, went to the side table, and picked up the remote. Mind if I turn on the news? He gave a small shrug. Sure, why not? She flipped it on low volume. The anchor's voice filled the background like white noise, talking about traffic, stocks, something about an art exhibit opening downtown. Normal life, untouched by betrayal, untouched by hospital sheets. Ethan looked over at her, voice quiet. What happens next, Maya? She sat back down. You heal. You choose what stays and what goes. You let grief have its say, but not the final word. He blinked, slow. You make it sound simple. It ain't, she said, but it's possible. Ethan's eyes returned to the window, where the rain was finally beginning to lighten. The sky still hung gray, but it didn't look quite so heavy now. He whispered more to himself than to her. She betrayed me in silence, and you tried to save me in screams. Maya smiled gently. Funny how the loudest love is sometimes the quietest presence. They sat like that for a while, just breathing in the rainlight. And for the first time since the fall, Ethan didn't feel like the house of his heart was entirely empty. The rain had stopped by afternoon, leaving the world slick and glistening. Outside the hospital window, sunlight peeked timidly through gray clouds, casting long shadows that danced across the tiled floor. Inside, the air was warmer, thicker, a mix of antiseptic and hushed breath, as if the entire building knew it was housing something fragile. Ethan sat propped against two pillows, a thin blanket over his legs. His skin was pale but no longer sickly. The color was beginning to return to his face, though his eyes still held the look of a man who had seen the truth too suddenly. Maya was by his side, folding a fresh blanket someone had left on the chair. "Do you remember?" he said quietly. "The day you first started working in the house?" Maya looked up, caught off guard by the question. She nodded slowly. "I do. It was spring. You had a client fly in from London, and the house was full of noise. Staff everywhere. You were quiet," Ethan said. "Didn't speak unless someone asked you something. I wasn't sure how long I'd last. Thought maybe I was too plain for a house that polished." He gave a weak smile. "You were the only one who didn't pretend." Maya raised a brow. "Sir, you didn't pretend to like anyone. You were polite, but you were real. Everyone else smiled like it was their job. You just did yours." Maya folded the blanket once more, smoothing the edge with care. "I didn't think anyone noticed." "I did," he said. "And Lila did too." She stilled. "She said you were the only one who made her nervous, because you saw too much." Maya didn't answer. Ethan turned toward her. "Was that true? Did you see it even back then?" Maya let the silence hang for a moment. Then she spoke. Soft and sure. "I didn't see everything, but I saw she was restless. Like she was always waiting for a world better than the one she already had." Ethan's throat tightened. "And I thought I was that world." "She made you feel that way," Maya said. "Some folks got a gift for making love feel like magic, till the trick's over." He looked down at his hands, resting still atop the sheet. "I feel like a fool." "No, sir," she said gently. "You feel like a man who loved honest. That ain't foolish. That's rare." He leaned back, exhaling slowly. "You know the worst part?" Maya shook her head. "I keep replaying every good moment we had, and wondering if she meant it, or if it was all just rehearsal for the lie." Maya's voice dropped. "Sometimes the lie needs a little truth to make it look right. Doesn't mean you imagined the good. Just means it wasn't all you thought it was." They fell quiet again, the television humming low in the background. A commercial for a luxury cruise flickered across the screen, full of laughter, champagne, sunsets. Ethan didn't look at it. He was watching the way the light fell across the floor. Then he said, "I don't think I can go back to that house." Maya met his eyes. "Not yet. Maybe not ever." She considered him. "You built that house, sir. Filled it with memories. Don't let her turn it into a place you fear." "It already is," he whispered. "Every corner reminds me of what I didn't see." Maya stood and walked slowly to the window. She looked out at the parking lot, at the reflection of the sky and the rain puddles. "You know what my mama used to say?" she asked, not turning around. "A house ain't a home until you take the hurt out of the walls." Ethan watched her, waiting. She said, "Sometimes you gotta walk the rooms again. Speak truth where lies were told. Forgive what hurt you. Burn what fooled you. Then start again." He swallowed hard. "And if I can't forgive?" She turned, her gaze steady. "Then you remember, and you live in spite of it." He didn't respond right away, but the tension in his shoulders lessened just a little. After a while, he said, "I saw her face when I fell. She didn't move, didn't even reach for me." Maya's voice was steady. "That's 'cause she wasn't holding love. She was holding fear of being found out." Ethan's breath caught. "I thought love was unconditional," he said. "It is," Maya replied, "but not unaccountable." He closed his eyes and leaned his head back, letting the weight of her words settle. Then, after a long moment, "Would you go back to that house with me?" She blinked. "Sir, just for a day," he said, "to open the windows, air it out, see what it feels like with new eyes." Maya studied him. He wasn't asking her to fix it. He wasn't asking her to stay forever. He was asking her to stand with him while he tried to reclaim what was lost. "I'll go," she said, "but only if you promise one thing." "No." "What's that?" "That you don't walk through that door pretending you ain't hurt." Ethan nodded, eyes shining. "Deal." Outside the window, the clouds began to break apart. A single shaft of sunlight stretched across the floor, warming the tiles. Maya looked down at it, then back at Ethan. "You ready to leave tomorrow?" "Not yet," he said. "But maybe soon." And for the first time since the morning his world collapsed, Ethan Blake let himself imagine that healing wasn't just a word people said to comfort the broken. It was a place, and he was finally on the road back to it. The sun rose behind the clouds like an old friend, unsure if it was still welcome. The morning was cooler than usual, crisp and quiet. As though the world itself knew a difficult step was about to be taken. Ethan stood at the hospital entrance in a navy peacoat, the collar turned up against the breeze. His body felt stronger now, but there was still a stiffness in his chest, not from the cold, but from anticipation. Maya arrived moments later, dressed simply in jeans and a soft cream sweater under a long beige coat. Her hair was pulled back, her face calm. In her hand, she held a thermos. "Coffee," she said, holding it out. Ethan took it with a small smile. "You think of everything." I try," she replied. They didn't say much as they got into the car. The driver was a quiet man with gray at his temples who greeted Ethan respectfully and nodded at Maya with quiet recognition. The car pulled out of the lot and eased into traffic. Ethan sat silently, his fingers tightening around the thermos, his gaze fixed on the road ahead. Maya glanced at him. "You sure you're ready?" "No," he said, "but I need to do it anyway." They drove past downtown, then into the more private neighborhoods where trees stood tall and old, and houses wore their wealth like tailored suits, elegant, quiet, powerful. When the gates to Ethan's estate came into view, his breath hitched. The last time he'd seen them, he'd been a man arriving home from a business trip. Now he was returning as someone else, someone altered. The gates opened slowly, as though reluctant to let him back in. The driveway still bore the tire marks of Rosie's last visit. The house, once warm and grand, now loomed like a memory too big for the present. Ethan stepped out first. Maya followed, surveying the grounds with a cautious gaze. He stood still for a long moment, staring at the front door. "Everything looks the same," he murmured. "Sometimes the outside stays still while the inside burns," Maya replied. He looked at her, then turned and unlocked the door. It creaked open. The scent hit him first, not perfume, not flowers, just absence. A hollow space where love had once tried to live. Inside, the house was tidy. Too tidy. The kind of cleanliness that screams of desperation. Rosie's perfume no longer lingered in the air, but her presence haunted every inch. The grand staircase, the velvet curtains, the polished marble, all silent witnesses to betrayal. Maya walked in behind him. Her footsteps were soft, reverent almost. Ethan didn't go upstairs. Not yet. He moved through the foyer, brushing his hand lightly against the banister. Then the dining room, where they had once celebrated his birthday with laughter and wine. Then the kitchen, where she used to hum while pretending to cook. She liked to play pretend, Ethan said quietly, almost to himself, like life was a movie and she was always center stage. Maya didn't reply. She let the silence answer for her. He turned toward the living room. There, on the mantel, was a photo still standing, their wedding day. Rosie in white, him in gray, both smiling like the future had sent them an invitation. Ethan walked over and stared at it. "I thought about throwing it," he said, "burning it, but then I thought, maybe the real punishment is letting it stay, letting it watch me move on." Maya stepped beside him. "Or maybe it's time to take it down. Not for her, for you." He looked at her. Then slowly, deliberately, he lifted the photo off the mantel and placed it face down on the table. Small action, big shift. They walked through the rest of the house, and Maya noticed the symbols of wealth everywhere, art that cost more than cars, floors polished to perfection, silence louder than joy. In the guest room, Ethan paused. "This was supposed to be the nursery," he said quietly. Maya's chest tightened. "You wanted children?" He nodded. "We both did. Or at least I thought we did. But she kept pushing it off, saying she wasn't ready. I see now. She never planned to stay long enough to become a mother." Maya stepped closer. "Then maybe it's not the room that needs changing. Maybe it's the meaning." Ethan looked around the room again, imagining something new, not what it was meant to be, but what it could become. They made their way to the stairs. Ethan hesitated at the bottom, his hands clenched at his sides. "You don't have to," Maya said softly. I do, he replied. Not for her, for me. Oh. He took the steps slowly, one at a time, as though each one weighed more than the last. Maya followed at a respectful distance. When they reached the bedroom door, Ethan paused, then pushed it open. The bed was made. The sheets were fresh. The space looked untouched. But in his mind, the memory replayed anyway, her head on another man's chest. The look in her eyes when she saw him standing there. Ethan stood still for a long moment. Then, quietly, he walked to the window and opened it wide. Cool air flooded the room, chasing away the ghosts. Maya came to stand by the door, watching him with care. I don't hate her, he said finally. That's okay, Maya said. Hate ain't the opposite of love. Indifference is. He turned, and their eyes met. I thought I needed answers, he said, but maybe I just needed to see it one last time, as it really was. Maya gave a small nod. He stepped away from the window, took one last look at the bed, and then walked out of the room, down the stairs, through the hall, out the front door. Maya followed him. At the foot of the steps, he stopped and turned to look at the house once more. I'm going to sell it. Maya was surprised, but she said nothing. He looked at her. You were right. This place holds too much of what broke me. I don't need it to heal. You've already started, she said. Ethan exhaled. For the first time, it felt like a clean breath. I don't know where I'll go yet, he said. Maya smiled gently. Sometimes you don't need a full map, just a first step. He looked at her. You're good at being a compass, he said. I just listen, she replied. Most folks already know the way. They just need someone to walk it with them a little. He nodded. As they got back into the car, Ethan glanced at the rearview mirror. The house behind him was still standing, but it no longer felt like a home or a prison. It was just a building, and he was finally ready to leave it behind. It was late afternoon by the time Ethan returned to the city. The air held that golden hue that only autumn could cast, making even the cracked sidewalks and honking traffic feel poetic in some small way. The SUV pulled into the underground garage of his high-rise penthouse. Maya stepped out first, instinctively checking her surroundings before Ethan emerged. You sure you want to do this today? She asked, her voice calm but laced with care. I have to, he said, adjusting his coat. If I wait any longer, I might change my mind. Maya didn't press. She followed him into the elevator, watching the city shrink below them as the numbers climbed. The ride was silent, except for the faint hum of the elevator cable and Ethan's uneven breathing. When the doors opened into his private lobby, the familiar scent of cedarwood greeted them. A housekeeper had been by. Everything was polished, neat, but untouched. Ethan made his way to his study while Maya waited in the living room, sinking into the large armchair near the window. He returned 10 minutes later, holding a thin manila envelope. It wasn't sealed yet. She looked up at him. That it? He nodded. Divorce papers. Final draft. All I have to do is sign and send. Maya hesitated. You want to be alone? No, he said surprisingly. I don't. He sat across from her, the envelope resting between his palms. His thumbs brushed its edge like he was trying to feel the weight of the decision in the paper. For years, I thought my greatest strength was building things, he said, voice low. I built companies, built homes, built a life, but I was wrong. Maya tilted her head slightly. Then what was it? He looked up, eyes steady. Endings. That's the real strength, knowing when to let go. She said nothing, just nodded. Ethan opened the envelope, took out the documents, and began reading through the pages again. A notary had already stamped the necessary sections. His lawyer had reviewed every clause. But the ink that mattered was his own. His pen hovered over the signature line. I keep waiting for it to feel right, he admitted. It won't, Maya said softly, but that don't mean it's wrong. He met her gaze. Her presence anchored him. No judgment, no rush, just truth. Then, with a quiet exhale, he signed. And just like that, the chapter closed, not with shouting or slammed doors, but a steady hand and an inked name. Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Ethan placed the signed papers back into the envelope and sealed it. I'll drop it off at the firm tomorrow morning. There was a long silence between them, not uncomfortable, just full. Finally, he stood. You hungry? Maya blinked. What? Dinner. I'm starving. And I don't want to eat alone tonight. She smiled gently. All right, what you got in mind? Nothing fancy, just something real. They ordered takeout meatloaf, mashed potatoes, cornbread, the kind of meal that didn't try to impress but always filled you right. As they sat at the dining table, the city's lights twinkled beyond the windows. Halfway through dinner, Ethan leaned back in his chair. You know, I used to think vulnerability was weakness. Maya wiped her mouth with a napkin and gave him a knowing look. Let me guess. Now you think it's strength? He smirked. No, I think it's both. She chuckled. That's fair. You've been through things, he said. I see it in the way you carry silence. It's not empty, it's protective. Maya's smile faded slightly, replaced by something softer. We all carry something. Some of us just learn to do it quiet. He nodded. You ever think about leaving? Starting over? I did, she said. Right before I met you. What stopped you? She paused. Someone showed me that being seen doesn't always mean being used. Sometimes, it just means being seen. That lingered in the air between them. Ethan pushed his plate away. I don't know what comes next. You don't have to, she said. Not tonight. They spent the rest of the evening sitting on the balcony, wrapped in blankets, listening to the city hum below. No grand plans, no dramatic declarations. Just two people, breathing in peace after a storm. The next morning, Ethan dropped the envelope at the law firm. No hesitation, no turning back. As he stepped out onto the sidewalk, a light breeze tugged at his coat. He turned his face to the sun and let it warm him. He was no longer the man who walked through that bedroom door. He was something else now. Not broken. Becoming. 3 days passed since Ethan submitted the signed divorce papers. And in that short window, the news had begun to leak. Quietly, as it always did in circles of wealth and power. No press release. No scandalous headline yet, but in the echoing hallways of social clubs, charity boards, and executive lounges, whispers moved faster than truth. Ethan Whitmore, the golden boy of Wall Street, was getting divorced. Maya didn't need confirmation. She could feel the shift in the air. Back at the penthouse, things were calmer now. Ethan spent more time in his home office than usual, but it wasn't to drown himself in work, it was a retreat. A space to think, to rebuild. He didn't avoid Maya. In fact, they shared more meals now. Short conversations. Silences that didn't feel heavy. This morning, as she was setting his breakfast tray, poached eggs, avocado toast, and a side of grapefruit, Maya noticed him standing by the window, phone to his ear, face unreadable. Yes, I understand, he said, voice clipped. Just send me the full report. He hung up and turned. Well, he sighed. It started. Maya tilted her head. The press? Not yet, but Rosie's lawyer leaked a snippet. A friend of a gossip columnist. You know how it goes. She nodded, placing the tray gently on the table. She's trying to control the narrative, Ethan continued. Paint me as cold. Distant. Career. Obsessed. Claims she was emotionally abandoned. Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. That woman wouldn't know emotional abandonment if it danced on her front porch. Ethan let out a dry chuckle. I almost admire her dedication to revisionist history. He sat, poked at his toast, then looked up. They'll come for you too. Eventually. I know. She might say you encouraged me, that there was something inappropriate between us. Maya's hands didn't flinch, but her voice dipped an octave. Let her try. I've done nothing but tell the truth. Stand in truth. Ethan nodded slowly. Still, I'll call my lawyer. Make sure you're protected. She didn't answer right away. Then softly, you always think about other people, don't you? He shrugged, force of habit. That afternoon, Maya went downstairs to get some air. The lobby was sleek and quiet, jazz playing from hidden speakers. She was headed toward the mailroom when she heard her name. Excuse me, Maya, right? She turned. A tall blonde woman in oversized sunglasses and a white trench coat approached, heels clicking against the marble. Her smile was too wide to be friendly. I'm sorry, Maya said politely. Do I know you? No, but I know you. You work for Ethan Whitmore. Maya's spine straightened. I'm his house manager. House manager. Right, the woman said, clearly amused. Funny how roles blur these days. Maya didn't respond. The woman stepped closer, lowering her voice. I'm friends with Rosie. Just so you know, we're watching. Everyone's watching. Don't get comfortable thinking you've won. Maya met her eyes calmly. Ma'am, I didn't come into anyone's life to win anything. I came to work, and I've done that with honesty. The woman sneered. Honesty won't save you when the story breaks. The world loves a scandal, especially one with a maid in the middle. Maya's jaw tightened, but she didn't blink. Then let the world watch. Just make sure they see who started the fire. She turned and walked away without looking back. Upstairs, Ethan was pacing when she returned. She didn't tell him everything just enough. A woman in the lobby, friend of Rosie's, gave me a little warning. Ethan's face darkened. You all right? I'm fine. She's not the first to try and shake me. Still, he said, I'm going to make some calls. Maya shook her head. You don't have to fix everything. I'm not fixing, I'm protecting. She smiled faintly at that. Later that night, Ethan sat in his office, staring at the glowing city skyline. The divorce might be done on paper, but Rosie wasn't letting go quietly, and the world outside the one that had once applauded his every deal was circling, hungry for drama. He opened a leather folder on his desk. Inside was a single sheet, a list of names, a list of who had leaked what, who had spoken to whom, all being tracked discreetly by his security consultant. Rosie was playing a public game. He would not. Down the hall, Maya stood on the balcony, eyes closed, breathing in the night air. The city was loud and messy and watching. But she had stood in fire before. This was just smoke now, and she knew something Rosie didn't. Truth didn't need to scream. It just needed to endure. It began early that morning, the news breaking quietly, like a crack spreading across fine porcelain. A single headline in a popular tabloid, tucked between celebrity sightings and political drama. Inside, the Whitmore split, the billionaire, the wife, and the maid. Ethan hadn't even gotten out of bed when his phone buzzed endlessly with texts and emails. Maya, already up and dressed, brought in his coffee without a word. The moment she saw his face, she knew. They printed it, he said simply, handing her the phone. She read the headline, then the first few lines. Sources close to the family claim the rift between Ethan Whitmore and his wife, Rosalind Whitmore, stemmed from emotional neglect and growing tension over his relationship with a mysterious woman in the house. Speculation swirls around the household staff, particularly a young woman of interest. Maya's hands tightened around the phone. They're not even trying to hide it. Ethan sat up, running a hand down his face. It's worse than I expected. They're not just implying, they're naming you without naming you. He took the phone back and threw it on the nightstand. What do we do? Maya asked quietly. We wait, he said. I'll issue a statement through the lawyer, but I won't dignify lies with outrage. Maya hesitated. I'm not worried about me, sir. I am, he said sharply, then softened. I didn't protect you soon enough. That changes today. Within hours, Ethan's legal team released a carefully worded public statement. Mr. Whitmore confirms the dissolution of his marriage to Rosalind Whitmore due to private and personal reasons. Any attempt to malign the character of his staff, particularly Miss Maya Williams, will be met with swift legal recourse. The press, of course, didn't slow down. Rumors were fuel. And Rosie? She fanned the flames from behind her perfectly curated social media presence. Cryptic quotes, heartbroken poetry, and a single blurry photo of her wiping tears at a cafe. She's playing the victim, Maya said as they sat in the living room watching the early evening news. She always was, Ethan muttered, even when she had everything. But something shifted in Maya that night. She'd been silent for too long. Later, as Ethan prepared a light dinner, Maya walked to the bookshelf, pulled out an old photo album he kept hidden behind legal tomes. She opened it and stared at the picture's wedding photos, a smiling Rosie in white, Ethan in a black tuxedo with hope in his eyes. He returned from the kitchen with 2 bowls of tomato bisque and saw her holding the album. You miss her? She asked, not looking at him. He exhaled. I miss who I thought she was. She ever love you, you think? For a while, maybe. Or maybe she loved what I could give her. Maya closed the album gently and placed it back. You ever loved someone who didn't know how to love you back? He looked at her, eyes meeting hers across the room. I think I'm just learning what that feels like. They ate in silence for a while. Comfortable. Again, but the calm didn't last. The next morning, as Maya left for groceries, a paparazzi camera flashed in her face just outside the apartment entrance. Maya Williams, are you and Ethan together? Did you break up the marriage? She shielded her face, moving quickly to the car. The driver helped her in, glaring at the man with the camera. Inside the vehicle, Maya's heart pounded. She'd known the storm was coming. She just didn't know it would be this close. Back upstairs, she found Ethan on the phone with his head of security. No press. Not on the premises. I don't care who they work for, trespassers will be removed. He saw Maya and immediately ended the call. They followed me, she said. Took photos. His face turned to stone. Are you all right? I am, but this is getting louder. He nodded. Then it's time we say something. Maya blinked. What do you mean? An interview. One time. With someone reputable. Get the truth out before the lies root too deep. Her eyes widened. You think they'll believe us? I think they'll believe clarity, he said. People aren't stupid. They just need a reason not to feed on rumors. 2 days later, Ethan and Maya sat in a quiet studio across from an anchor at a national news network. The lights were warm. The camera red light blinking. Ethan spoke first. Calm, clear. He told the truth, not all of it, but enough. That his marriage had been over long before any papers were signed. That Maya had been loyal, honest, and undeserving of public shame. And then Maya spoke, her voice steady, eyes unwavering. I was raised to believe that dignity was something you carried with you even when no one else sees it. I never tried to break a home. I tried to protect someone who didn't deserve to be hurt. That's all I did. That's all I will ever claim. When it aired that night, the response was overwhelming. Not everyone believed, but many did. Messages flooded in from strangers, nurses, grandmothers, retired teachers, people who had seen pain. Who knew what it was like to be blamed for someone else's choice? You spoke for more than just yourself, Ethan told her after the broadcast ended. Maya smiled faintly. I spoke for anyone who's ever been in the shadows. He reached for her hand tentatively, respectfully. Thank you, he said, her fingers wrapped around his gently. Don't thank me, sir. Just don't let this change you. Ethan looked out the window at the flashing skyline. It won't, he whispered, because for the first time, I finally know who I am. By the next week, the worst of the storm had passed. Not completely, the media still circled like hawks hoping for a slip. A scandal. A single misstep. But the interview had shifted the tide. Ethan Whitmore was no longer the cold-hearted billionaire hiding secrets, and Maya Williams was no longer a mysterious shadow. They were human, flawed, brave, honest. And for the first time, the world paused to listen. Back inside the penthouse, calm had returned in pieces. No more press at the gate. No more hushed gossip in the elevator. Ethan's staff walked with confidence again, and Maya was no longer a secret to be protected but a name whispered with respect. It was a quiet Thursday morning when Ethan knocked softly at the door of the guest suite. Maya opened it, still in her robe, hair loosely tied back. Sorry, he said. Did I wake you? She blinked, then smiled. No, I was already up. Do. I thought maybe we could go out today. Maya raised an eyebrow. Out? He nodded. Just you and me. A day away. Somewhere no one knows us. No headlines. No whispers. She hesitated for a second. I don't have anywhere fancy to wear, if that's what you're planning. Ethan smiled. Maya, I'm not inviting you to the Met Gala. I'm inviting you to be human with me. An hour later, they were on the road, heading north toward the Hudson River Valley. Autumn had arrived early, and the trees blazed with colors scarlet, amber, gold. Ethan drove, occasionally stealing glances at her as she stared out the window, fingers brushing the glass like it was a memory she wanted to hold. You've always lived in the city? He asked. She nodded. Born and raised in Queens. My mother worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. I started helping with housework when I was 10. By 15, I was babysitting for neighbors. He smiled faintly. So you've always been the one keeping things together. She shrugged. Someone had to be. They stopped in a small riverside town. Quaint, quiet, the kind of place where no one cared about net worths or tabloid rumors. They walked through an art fair, bought coffee from a street vendor, and browsed second-hand books from a dusty table near the park. Maya picked up a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, turning the pages gently. Atticus Finch, she said, was the first man I admired in literature. He spoke softly, but never backed down. Ethan watched her. Reminds me of someone else I know. She chuckled. If you're calling me a Southern lawyer, you're way off. No, he said, but you're a kind of defender. Quiet, strong. They sat under a willow tree by the river for lunch, just sandwiches and bottled lemonade, but it felt like a feast. For once, they didn't talk about Rosie, or the scandal, or the weight of what had happened. Instead, they talked about music, childhood, old fears, and secret dreams. I wanted to be a teacher, Maya admitted. I even got a scholarship, but my little brother got sick. We couldn't afford treatment in college. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. You still could. I'm 29, Ethan. And? You're not 90? She laughed softly. Maybe someday. He didn't press. Just filed the dream away in the quiet part of his heart where important things lived now. As the sun dipped lower, they drove back in silence, not awkward, but warm. That night, back at the penthouse, Maya stood in the kitchen reheating leftovers while Ethan opened a bottle of wine. He poured 2 glasses, handed her one. To new chapters, he said. To surviving the last one, she replied. They clinked glasses. Later, as she was about to retreat to her room, Ethan stopped her. Maya. Nah. She turned. Yes? I've been thinking. About the house. About what happens next. She waited. I want to rebuild. Not just the walls. The life inside it. And I want you to be part of that, not as someone who cleans the rooms, but someone who helps shape them. She blinked. Ethan, that's a big offer. I know. And I'm not asking for anything you don't want. I trust you. And I don't trust easily anymore. She smiled. Let's start with small things. He nodded. Small things. That night, Maya stood on her balcony, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars. She wasn't sure where the road was going, but for the first time in years, she wasn't afraid to follow it. 3 weeks later, the Whitmore estate no longer looked like a monument to grief. Gone were the drawn curtains and echoing silence. The garden had been trimmed back into order. The fountain at the center of the circular drive sang again, and the kitchen no longer smelled like absence. It smelled of cinnamon rolls, brewed coffee, and life. Ethan had returned not just physically, but in presence, in spirit. He'd walked through each room with Maya by his side, not as a tour guide, but a companion in reclaiming. The house felt like it could finally exhale. You really want to keep the green walls in the study? Maya teased one afternoon, arms crossed as she stood beside him by the oak doorframe. Ethan chuckled. It's tradition. It's hideous, she replied, smirking. Looks like a billiards hall from 1972. He grinned. All right, paint them. What do you suggest? Warm gray, or soft navy? Something that makes people feel welcome, not like they're being interrogated. He raised an eyebrow. Are you redesigning the whole place? No, she said, half joking, just helping the house forget her. They paused. Her, Rosie. Neither of them said the name aloud much anymore. But she lingered in sense, in memories, in the bruises left behind. Maya, now officially appointed as house manager, had taken her role with quiet purpose. She met with contractors, interviewed new staff, restructured the supply system, and made the kitchen more accessible. She handled everything with the same grace and precision that once defined how she folded towels and polished glass. You've brought order to the chaos, Ethan said during a late lunch on the terrace. Maya sipped her iced tea. I've just given the house a new spine. You're the one making it breathe again. But beneath the new paint, the fresh linens, and the light music playing in the background, something deeper was shifting. One afternoon, while Maya was organizing old guest logs in the basement office, she found a box she didn't recognize. It was labeled in Rosie's handwriting, private, do not open. Maya stared at it. She wasn't nosy by nature, but instinct had kept Ethan from heartbreak once, and it stirred again now. She opened the box slowly. Inside were receipts, photos, letters, and one manila envelope containing printed emails. She scanned them, then read them again. Her face grew pale. At dinner that night, she barely touched her food. Ethan noticed. Long day? Maya nodded, unsure how to bring it up. He reached for her hand, something becoming more natural between them now. You can tell me anything. You know that. She took a breath. I found something. In the basement. In one of Rosie's boxes. Ethan tensed. What kind of something? Emails. Receipts. She wasn't just cheating. His jaw tightened. What do you mean? She was working with someone. I don't know all the details yet. But it looks like she was leaking information about your companies, possibly to a competitor. There were mentions of financial statements, client lists, even internal projections. Ethan leaned back, stunned. I think it started at least a year ago, Maya continued. She used a burner account. The name on the emails is just RW, but the context makes it clear it was her. He didn't speak for a long time. Then he asked quietly, why would she do that? She had everything, Maya answered softly. Sometimes people destroy what they can't control. You were too strong, too steady. She couldn't shake you, so she tried to cut you down slowly. He nodded, eyes dark with realization. I'll need to speak with my legal team and my security chief. I already scanned and emailed the documents to your lawyer's secure inbox, Maya said. Ethan looked at her, surprised. You did? I figured the sooner you know, the better. I'm sorry, Ethan. He shook his head. Don't be sorry. Be glad you were brave. They sat in silence for a moment. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. I was going to wait, but I think now's the right time. Maya blinked. What is it? He opened it gently. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small, unpolished diamond. It's not flashy. It's not a statement. It's real. Raw. Like you. She stared at it, unsure what to say. I don't expect anything in return, he said. It's not a proposal. Just gratitude, and maybe hope. Her voice caught. Ethan, he smiled. You don't have to wear it now, or ever. I just wanted you to know that someone sees you, all of you, and values it. Maya looked down at the necklace, then back up at him. I'll wear it, she whispered. That night, as she lay in bed, she touched the cool metal against her collarbone, and for the first time, the house felt like hers, too not in name, but in spirit. It rained the next morning, not the kind of soft drizzle that makes windows romantic and sidewalks glisten, but a hard, gray, relentless downpour that painted the estate in shadows and turned the city skyline into a blur beyond the hills. Ethan stood by the tall glass windows of his study, coffee in hand, watching it fall. The green walls, newly painted a calming slate blue, reflected the soft morning light. Behind him, classical music hummed through the speakers, a cello piece, slow and haunting. Maya entered quietly, wrapped in a thick cardigan, her hair still damp from the shower. She carried a folder tucked under one arm and a soft look on her face. Morning, she said, voice gentle. Morning, he replied, eyes still fixed on the storm. Feels like the house is breathing again. She walked up beside him, placing the folder on the coffee table. That's what happens when ghosts get replaced with truth. He glanced at her, lips twitching into a small smile. You always talk like a poet. She shrugged. I had a lot of silent years. I had to fill them with something. They stood there for a long minute, watching the rain together. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. He checked it, sighed, and turned toward her. The security firm traced the burner account. It was created using a VPN but routed through a device registered under a Jonathan Pierce, ex-employee. Fired 5 years ago for embezzlement. Rosie must have found him after that. Maya nodded. That name was on one of the email threads. Ethan sat on the couch, ran a hand through his hair. My legal team is building the case, but they warned me if it goes public, it's going to get ugly again. It always does when the truth walks in, Maya said. But this time, you're not alone. Ugh. He looked up at her, the weight in his chest a little lighter. Do you regret it? He asked suddenly. She blinked. Regret what? Staying, helping me, letting the world see you. Maya lowered herself onto the chair across from him. I regret that it took you getting your heart broken for anyone to see the kind of man you are, she said honestly. But no, Ethan. I don't regret staying. I just wish you didn't have to hurt so much first. He swallowed the lump rising in his throat. Outside, the rain intensified. Suddenly, the intercom buzzed. Maya got up and checked the panel. It's Rosie, she said quietly. Ethan stood slowly. Let her in. Maya hesitated. You sure? I need to see what truth looks like on her face. Minutes later, the front door opened. Rosie stood dripping on the threshold, soaked to the bone. Her once polished curls hung limp. The beige trench coat she wore was spotted with rain. No makeup. No earrings. Just her unmasked. Ethan waited in the foyer, arms crossed, guarded but calm. Maya stood off to the side, silent as stone. Rosie's eyes darted between them, lingering just a second too long on Maya before she spoke. I know I'm the last person you want to see. Ethan didn't answer. She stepped forward, voice trembling. I came to say I'm sorry. For everything. For the lies, the betrayal, the theft. So it's true, he said. She nodded. Yes, I leaked the financials. I let someone use me because I was angry and selfish and, honestly, I thought you'd never find out. And what now? He asked coldly. I turned myself in, she said. The lawyer confirmed it by now, I'm sure. I gave them everything I had. Emails. Accounts. I'm cooperating. Ethan studied her. You didn't do that for me. No, she admitted. I did it because I couldn't sleep anymore. Because I realized I don't like the woman I became. And maybe it's too late, but I wanted to try and clean up something before it's all gone. There was silence. Then Rosie turned to Maya. I judged you, she said. I belittled you, and you were the only person who tried to protect him. You don't owe me forgiveness. But I needed to say it, out loud. Maya nodded once. You're right, I don't forgive you. But I hope you become someone you can. Rosie's lips trembled. Then she turned to leave. As the door closed behind her, Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. She's really gone, he said. Maya stepped beside him. You're free. He looked at her. I was free the moment I stopped loving her, he said. But now I get to choose who walks beside me in peace. That night, the rain stopped. The house was quiet again, but not hollow. Maya sat on the back patio, her book resting open in her lap. Ethan joined her, carrying 2 mugs of cocoa. She's turning herself in, he said. It's official now. Maya took the mug. Then the past is behind you. He looked at her in the low light. And the future? She met his eyes, steady and warm. One step at a time. The sun returned the next day, filtered softly through autumn-colored clouds. The estate, soaked from the night storm, glistened like something newly baptized. Dew clung to the rose bushes. Light crept through the library windows like forgiveness. Maya stood at the back of the house, looking out over the garden. The crispness in the air reminded her of home, not the place, but the feeling. The kind you get when something ends, and something gentler begins. Inside, Ethan sat in his study, staring at the manila envelope Rosie had left behind. The confession, the signatures, the cold legality of a betrayal finally documented. Her arrest had made the headlines by morning, but he had given no comment to the press. He didn't need noise. He needed truth and stillness. Maya entered, holding a small tray tea, honey, a blueberry muffin. You look like you need real food, she said, setting it down. You skipped breakfast. He smiled faintly. You're becoming dangerously good at reading me. I'm a professional, remember? He leaned back, watching her pour the tea. Rosie used to do that. Once, when we were newly married. Maya didn't flinch. People often give their best selves first. He nodded slowly. I keep thinking, what if I saw the signs earlier? What if I'd come home one day sooner? Maya sat across from him. And what if you hadn't come home at all? She said gently. You'd still be in the dark. Sometimes pain is the price of light. Ethan took a breath. You always know how to say what I'm not ready to admit. She offered a small smile. That's what friends do. He looked at her, really looked. You still see me as just a friend? The question hung in the room, soft but seismic. Maya's hands froze for a moment. then slowly returned the teapot to its place. Her eyes didn't meet his. "I see you as a man who's healing," she said, "and I don't want to rush a man out of a storm he's still drying off from." Ethan's voice was low. "What if I want to walk into the sunlight with someone beside me?" Maya finally looked at him. Her gaze was steady, full of caution and warmth. "Then walk slowly," she said, "and mean every step." Later that afternoon, the estate phone rang. Maya answered. It was Mr. Arlo, the old groundskeeper, calling from the local hospital. His wife, Clara, had taken a fall. He didn't know who else to call. Ethan was already grabbing his coat by the time Maya told him. "Let's go," he said. "They were with this house before I even bought it." At the hospital, Clara lay in a soft-lit room, bandaged but alert. Mr. Arlo stood beside her, gripping her hand with the tenderness of a man who had loved through decades. "You didn't have to come, Mr. Whitmore," Arlo said, eyes wet. "You took care of my home," Ethan replied. "Let me take care of yours." Maya stood quietly behind him, watching the way Ethan interacted with the nurses, how he knelt beside Clara and listened to every word. He didn't play the billionaire there. He played the man. Later, in the parking lot, Ethan turned to Maya as they walked toward his car. "I've made a list." She raised an eyebrow. "Of? People I trust. People I want near me from now on. It's a short list." She smiled. "Am I on it?" He stopped, looked her in the eye. "You are the list." That night, they didn't eat in the dining hall. They sat at the kitchen island like two old friends, warmed by soup and cornbread, their knees nearly touching under the counter. Maya laughed at one of Ethan's clumsy childhood stories, how he once tried to iron his school pants while wearing them and ended up burning his thigh. "Serves you right," she chuckled, dabbing her eye. "You wouldn't have lasted a day with 10-year-old me," he said. "I think I could have handled you," she teased. Even back then, as the night deepened, they didn't speak of Rosie, or betrayal, or court dates. They spoke of favorite songs, of the first movies that made them cry, of what peace might look like in a world that never really stops spinning. Ethan watched her laugh, the corners of her eyes crinkling. He thought of how far they'd come from that morning when she blocked his path with trembling hands to now, when her hands steadied everything around them. He reached across the counter and gently took her fingers. "No more ghosts," he said. She nodded. "Only choices." "No." And just like that, something unspoken settled between them, not rushed, not forced. Just possible. Morning sunlight spilled into the kitchen, warm and golden. The birds were louder today, as if even they sensed the shift in the house the way it now breathed easier. Maya stood at the sink rinsing fruit, humming softly to herself, when she heard the familiar shuffle of footsteps behind her. "You hum when you're happy," Ethan said, his voice still thick with sleep. She turned, surprised to see him barefoot, holding 2 mugs of coffee. His shirt was untucked, sleeves rolled up, casual, comfortable, more man than mogul. "And you smile when you're not trying to," she replied. He handed her one of the mugs. Their fingers touched just briefly, but it sent a flutter through both of them. They didn't speak of it. "I've been thinking," he said as they leaned on the counter, "about the estate, the staff, this whole life." Maya sipped quietly, waiting. "I don't want to rebuild the same walls again," he said. "Not the physical ones, the personal ones." She nodded slowly. "So," he continued, "I want to promote you officially. House manager, full authority. You hire who you trust, dismiss who you don't. I'll sign whatever you need." Maya blinked. "You're serious?" "I'm tired of people pretending to be loyal," he said. "You were loyal when it cost you everything. That's the kind of foundation I want." She took a breath. "All right, but if I'm in charge, no more marble floors in the kids' wing." He grinned. "Kids' wing? I thought we were dreaming big," she teased, then looked away, cheeks coloring. Ethan's smile softened, but he didn't press. Instead, he handed her a sealed envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "My resignation," he said. Her eyes widened. "From the board, from Whitmore Holdings. I'm stepping down." Maya stared at him. "Ethan, that company is your legacy." "No," he said gently. "That company is my father's legacy. I just carried it forward. But my life, my real life, is still waiting to be built." She placed the envelope on the table between them. "You sure about this?" He looked at her, eyes steady. The day I collapsed, I realized how fast everything can end. If I don't choose peace now, I may never get the chance again. They were quiet for a while. Then Maya said softly, "What does peace look like to you?" Ethan looked around the quiet kitchen, the light filtering through curtains, the scent of warm coffee. Her. "This," he said. "You. Me. A home that's honest." The front gate buzzer interrupted the moment. Maya walked over to check the screen. "It's your sister." Ethan's brow furrowed. "Angela?" He hadn't seen her since their mother's funeral. "Let her in," he said. Moments later, Angela Whitmore stepped into the foyer. Mid-40s, polished and elegant in a navy suit, she carried herself like someone who still moved through the upper echelons of power, but her eyes, those betrayed a storm beneath. "Ethan," she said stiffly. "Angela." They embraced, brief and formal. "I heard about Rosie, the arrest, the scandal. You came to gloat?" he asked, tone neutral. "I came to see if my brother still exists beneath the headlines." Maya watched silently from the edge of the room, sensing this was a reunion layered with years of unspoken pain. Angela looked around. "The house feels lighter." "Because it is." "I didn't know she was capable of all this," Angela said. "I warned you she was ambitious, but..." "She wasn't the only blind spot," Ethan cut in. Angela flinched. "You haven't returned my calls in years," he said. "You shut me out," she replied. "After Dad died, after the company shifted, you built walls so high I couldn't even see where you stood." He said nothing. She softened. "But I see you now." "And I see her." Her eyes flicked to Maya. "I remember you," Angela said. "From the foundation gala." Maya smiled politely. "That was a lifetime ago." "Not to people who remember kindness," Angela replied, surprising them both. Ethan exhaled. "Why are you really here?" Angela stepped forward. "To say I'm sorry, and to ask if you'll come to Mom's memorial next week. It's been 5 years. I thought you were holding it without me." "I was, but now, I don't want the old pain to define us." Ethan hesitated. Then he nodded. "I'll come." Angela smiled faintly. "Bring her." Maya looked up, startled. "Me?" Angela turned. "If you don't come, he might not go. And he needs to. For closure. For 1,000 things." She left a card on the entryway table, then walked out as suddenly as she arrived. The silence lingered until Ethan turned to Maya. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "She's intense. She always was." "You gonna go?" "I think I have to," he said. "For my mother. For the past." Then he looked at her, voice quieter. "Will you come with me?" Maya hesitated, but only for a moment. "Yes," she said. "If I'm walking beside you, I won't stop at the door." He reached for her hand. "Then let's face it. Together." Man. The sun was setting behind the churchyard when Ethan's black sedan pulled up near the Whitmore family estate chapel. The memorial was understated just how his mother would have wanted it. A few close friends, extended relatives, and members of the foundation had gathered under the open sky, a soft breeze rustling through the oak trees that lined the path. Ethan stepped out first, dressed in a classic black suit, no tie, a single white rose pinned to his lapel. Beside him, Maya stepped down in a dark navy dress, elegant and simple. Her curls pinned back neatly. A quiet strength in her posture. They walked together toward the chapel, the gravel crunching beneath their feet. Heads turned not just in recognition, but surprise. The stoic billionaire was here. And not alone. Angela stood near the front, hands clasped, eyes watching. When she saw Ethan approach with Maya, something in her expression softened pride, maybe, or relief. As they took their seats near the front row, the pastor stepped up and began a short, heartfelt eulogy. "She was a woman of quiet resilience," he said, gesturing toward the modest memorial photo of Mrs. Whitmore. "Not loud with her love, but loyal. Not grand with her gestures, but dependable. She believed in giving, even when no one was watching. And she raised her children to believe the same." Ethan stared ahead, unmoving. Maya reached for his hand under the pew. He didn't hesitate. He held hers back. The pastor continued. "Sometimes, Our truest strength shows not in how we rise, but in how we endure, in how we forgive, and in how we love again after losing. Ethan exhaled, long and slow. After the memorial, Angela approached as guests began to disperse. "You came," she said. "I said I would." She looked at Maya, offering a small nod of gratitude. "I'm glad," she added, voice gentler now. "We lost too many years already. I don't want to lose more." "No." Ethan gave a faint smile. "Neither do I." Then Angela did something unexpected. She hugged him. Not tightly, just long enough to say what words couldn't. Later that evening, they returned to the Whitmore estate. The house looked different in the dim light, less like a monument, more like a home. Rosie's belongings were long gone, her presence replaced by something warmer, more grounded. Ethan changed into something more relaxed: khakis, a linen shirt, and joined Maya in the sunroom, where she sat curled up on the couch, reading. "Do you ever miss what came before?" he asked, taking a seat across from her. Maya looked up, thoughtful. "Sometimes. But missing something doesn't mean you want it back. It just means you're honest about where you came from." He nodded slowly. "You always know what to say." She set her book down. "No. I just learned to listen to silence. It tells you more than people realize." He leaned forward. "And what is it telling you now?" Maya hesitated, then said softly, "That this house, this life, is ready for something new." Ethan studied her face. "So am I." He stood, walked to the window, and stared out into the garden where the night breeze gently moved the swing under the tree. Then he turned back to her. "I've made so many mistakes, trusted the wrong people, forgot how to look inward." "You didn't forget," Maya said. "You just got too busy surviving." He walked over and sat beside her, eyes steady. "Do you believe in second chances, Maya?" She smiled faintly. "No. I believe in real chances. The kind that don't rush, that don't need to be called second anything." Ethan nodded. "I want that," he whispered. She leaned into him, her shoulder brushing his. "So take it," she whispered back. A long silence followed, not uncomfortable, but full like the pause before a new song starts. The quiet between thunder and rain. Then, slowly, Ethan took her hand in his. Not as a boss, not as a man broken, but as someone finally whole enough to offer something honest. "You saved me, Maya, and not just that day at the door." She turned to him, voice barely a breath. "Then let's build something neither of us has to be saved from." They sat there until the stars emerged, silent witnesses to the end of a story and the beginning of something new. No declarations, no rushed confessions, just the soft unfolding of two people choosing peace and each other. As the grandfather clock in the hall chimed quietly for 10, Ethan looked at her one last time that night and said, "You once told me pain doesn't go away. It just changes." Maya nodded. "And?" He smiled. "I think mine just turned into hope." "Nay." This story reminds us that true loyalty often comes from the quietest places, and sometimes the people society overlooks are the ones who hold us up when everything else falls apart. Betrayal may shake the foundations of our world, but honesty, compassion, and quiet courage can rebuild what was broken. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation, but it can open the door to healing. And in the end, love built on truth will always outlast love built on illusion.